welcome back to another episode of the North Star Takes podcast. I'm Bailey Policki. The guy in the middle is Jacob Liberta, and the guy on the right is our resident Minnesota Wild expert, John Mann. Big time Wild fan, watches most of the games. Um, great start to the season for the Wild so far. Obviously, they're at 20 points through 15 games. Obviously, a tough loss against the Sharks the other night, but overall, pretty good start. Obviously, there's been some slight concerns with Kaprizov and Fiala off to slow starts, but overall, I guess maybe outside of those two, do you guys have any other concerns with this roster and the way it's been playing so far? Maybe we'll start with Liberta first.
Sure. As far as the roster goes, I guess I don't know if I have anything in particular wrong with the roster. I think it's fine the way it is, and letting our guys that we're really waiting to really round it out in the AHL right now, just kind of figure it out there first, and kind of go through the development program, and then when they're ready, they'll come up, obviously. But for now, I think the roster is fine. It's just more guys, just I don't know, like Kaprizov and Fiala. I guess it's just playing a little bit better, maybe having a few more chances, I guess. But I think the roster is fine. Obviously, we've won 2/3 of our games, so that's a good start. But I think it's just maybe finding more. I don't know. I don't know if I want to say we're finding a pretty good balance. It's just maybe finding more, more production from our defensive side of the ice. I guess I would say
Yeah,
that's probably where I'd go, just because it just hasn't looked as crisp as it did last year. Albeit there's a lot of different circumstances that are in play for that. Because last year we played 7 teams, so you get used to playing the same 7 teams over and over again. Whereas like this year you're playing the whole league again,
yeah,
and then you just have a lot of different bodies now too compared to what you had last year. Because the old guard with Suter's out, and then so is a guy like Soucy. He's off in Seattle now, so it's a little bit different. So I think we're still finding our footing, but at the same time, I think they have been making strides towards getting better every night. It's just maybe it's not going to get to where I would like it to get, but I
hmm
think that's probably where I would start as far as what would have me concerned, because our goal differential is only +2 right now, and that's kind of strange for a 10-5 team. But so
right.
you'd think when we're top 10 in the league in goals per game right now, then you got to think it's probably the defense.
Yeah, and I would say a big part of that is just we always seem to get behind right away in games.
Yeah,
And then we kind of have to make a mad scramble at the end to try and come back. And I thought it was going to happen again against the Sharks, but then San Jose got that fourth goal to kind of just put the game away. So that was unfortunate. But John, what has you concerned about the team right now? Or are you not concerned about anything?
I think expert was a bit of a stretch, but as far as roster concerns, I mean, not a whole lot. I think they've been playing relatively exciting hockey. I got super excited. What was it, 2017, when we had best regular season ever?
Yep.
I thought that was good hockey. The Wild were playing extremely boring hockey, and I think with the new
Yep.
guys that we've had for the last 2 years, the play style's changed. It feels younger, quicker. Um, a little fancier passing, which can be a bit of a detriment at times. When it comes to the actual roster, I think in 2 years, the roster is going to be wildly different. I know this year we had a lot of changes that were made. And in 2
Yep.
years, with kind of the cap restrictions that we have, you're going to see a kind of a revolving door, especially around the bottom six and the defensive pairings. I think the defense has been a bit of a concern, but not really surprising when you look at the pieces that we added.
hmm
Um, so I'm not concerned yet. I don't expect to win the cup this year. I expect to be competitive, maybe make the playoffs. But I think the biggest thing to understand is that we're in a bit of a rebuild at this point. I think you've got some key pieces that are here, but 3 years the roster could be totally different. We
For
might
sure.
not have Fiala. We'll have Kaprizov. Hartman should still be here. But we might have some bigger pieces going away. So the roster's fine. I'd like to see better defensemen. I think it really hurt to lose or to get rid of Suter.
hmm
I think Parise had to go. Suter, I think, still would have been a good bottom pairing. He'd
Yep.
slowed down a lot. It was pretty obvious, but he's still his defensive IQ is bar none in the league.
Yeah.
He positions really well, and that has kind of mitigated his speed issues. So it definitely hurts to lose him, because I think the guys who got replaced with Merrill and Kulikov, and even Goligoski's not a top pairing D-man. So
Yeah.
it's tough. I don't think there needs to be any big changes. I don't necessarily think they should pull up AHL guys right away. I think you let those guys develop, and when they really prove that they deserve to be up here and guys up here aren't getting it done, that's when you can make little changes, but I wouldn't rush anything.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, honestly. Obviously, yeah, Suter was still playing pretty well for given his age, but clearly it was obvious Bill Guerin wanted to move on for reasons outside of hockey, more so locker room stuff like that. Just get rid of the old guard, bring in a new era, and I was fine with that. I think having a guy like Merrill on that last D pairing is not a good situation whatsoever. He's really been rough from what I've seen so far this season, and then you match that with like Cam Talbot had pretty much a career season last year. It was one of his best years in the NHL. And he just, I mean, obviously he hasn't been as good as last year, which it's impossible to expect him to be any better. Then you have Capo Kakinen, who's kind of a unknown as a backup goalie. I mean, he had a really good stretch last year. I think he won like 9 games in a row. But then after that, he had a really rough stretch where I think at one point he gave up like 7, 8, maybe 9 goals to the Blues or something like that. I mean, something insane. And so he's had an okay start to the season so far this year, but not having like a super reliable like number one goalie. I mean, Talbot's reliable, but like he's not outstanding by any means. And then obviously Kakinen, it just remains to be seen how good he'll end up being. So I would say defense is probably my biggest concern just in general. You can lump the defensemen and the goalies together. I know a lot of people are kind of wanting to get on Kaprizov for his effort, and obviously it didn't look great against the Sharks, but I don't know, man. Like he's a super talented player. I kind of have a feeling something's a little off there. Like he might have some sort of nagging injury or something because some games it looks like he's going hard. Other games it looks like he's not going quite as hard. So I don't really know what the deal is there, but he's just such a talented player, and we saw last year how he can be head and shoulders above everyone else on the ice. So I'm not too terribly worried. It's a long season. He's got 3 goals now. He's tops in the team in assists, I think. So I think he's going to be just fine. What do you guys think about him?
Yeah, I think once they start stacking losses, then that's probably when I'll go after him if he's not stepping it up and bringing us back and overcoming some adversity. 'Cause that's what ultimately you do. That's what you want most out of your leaders is being there in the times of trouble, really, when you really got to dig yourself out. Because the more you get those points where you stack losses, then the season can start going downhill real fast. So I think that's probably when I would probably start taking my shots. But for now, we're losing a game here and there. I'm not going to sweat that too much.
Yeah.
I mean, his point production is really similar to this point last year, so I'm not concerned. I think goals aren't coming. Maybe he's gripping the stick a little bit too tight. I saw some quote from him that was translated, so it was a little bit dirty. It wasn't a very good translation, but I think he's in his head a little bit. And once he gets that first goal, it's all going to come. He's shooting at about 6% right now.
Yeah.
I think realistically he could be around 8 to 9%. So. I think he's just got to keep putting pucks on nets, and he's getting the assists, and that's been fantastic. I think he's just got to kind of get that a nice greasy, dirty one to open things up, and he'll be good to go. He's working hard at, but I think the teams are working harder on defending him. You saw it against the Sharks where they had a guy on him constantly. Always got a hand on him. He's got to find a way to get a little bit of separation and space so he can get a clean shot. I mean, you look at Joel Eriksson's neck when he gets a little bit of space. He's sniping goalies this year, which is fantastic to see. But I don't see Kaprizov getting the same space. So maybe Joel just isn't respected and people give him that space. And maybe Kaprizov's got to do something different to generate that space.
For sure. It's going to be an adjustment, I think, because obviously last year no one really knew how to defend him. And this year it's completely different. They have basically I guess not a full season technically, but a season long worth of tape on him. So it's going to be an adjustment. He's going to have to change his game a little bit, but I think he'll get it figured out. I mean, the dude dominated the Russian hockey league when he was over there. I think he's a smart player. He obviously knows what he's doing. So let's transition to some bright spots on the team. What have you guys noticed so far that you've liked? We'll start with Liberta again.
Sure. I would say I like this team's ability to overcome early deficits because several of our wins to this point in the season have all been come from behind victories, technically, because I think we've the other team has scored first in almost every game that we've won, or just about every one of them. And I think that's a concerning trend, but at the same time, it's good that we're able to come back from that because I think the Suter and Parisi teams of old from the last regime, I don't think they would have overcome as many deficits as this team is right now. So I think that's been a huge bright spot for us. And I think I love the leadership that Dean Evason's also showing. I think he's a great guy to have behind the bench. I think he tells it like it is, night in and night out. I think that's great. He does that for the media, for the players, everybody. And I think that keeps everybody on track and really moving towards what we want to get to. So I think that's probably where I'd start with a couple bright spots in this team.
Sounds good. How about you, John?
Edison, 100%. Absolutely loving. Switches with the lines when he needs to.
Yeah,
plays the guys who are playing well that game. If you're Kaprizov and you're not doing well, he'll cut down your minutes and he'll play Rem Pitlick above you. Speaking of a bright spot with a hat trick, fantastic. He had the penalty in the Sharks game, which that one frustrated me a little bit because the puck was up the boards and away from him. And I think it was Cogliano came and hit him and didn't even bother trying to play the puck. So I think Pitlick took offense to that and went after him. And he's a smaller guy in the NHL and, hasn't played a ton of games. And I think he's trying to get a little bit of respect. So they didn't score because of the power play. At least I think the end of the period goal came before it.
Yeah.
So no harm, no foul. Love to see the fire. Otherwise, Joel Eriksson, absolute favorite.
Yep.
He's adding the offense to his team. I think his face-offs are sitting around 47%. It was higher earlier on in the season, but good to see him bring that up a little bit. And Matt Dumba.
Yeah.
He's had some ugly turnovers, I'm not going to lie. But, he's got 9 points, which puts him in 5th on the team. He was absolutely laying the body, big clean hits against the Sharks. I love seeing the fire from him. And his shot is looking fast and hard. He's just got to hit the net a little bit more. But it's been fun to watch him play.
Yeah. I think it's because they gave him the age yet?
I don't know. All I know was when he was throwing hips against the Sharks, I was getting really excited because, number one, I don't think we've seen big hip checks from the Wild since, Keith Ballard.
That's been a while.
Yeah. So super excited to see a guy who's laying the body other than Foligno.
Yeah, I would agree. Dumba, he's just kind of a wild card because, he does turn the puck over, but he's just such a skilled offensive defenseman that you need to have one of those guys on your team for sure. So as much as he can drive you crazy and as much as he can piss people off, I just think he's worth having because when he scores that clap bomb from the blue line, I mean, that can change momentum in a game when you get a goal like that. So I would agree. Dumba's been a huge bright spot. Mine for sure is Marcus Foligno, though. Obviously, he just gets better and better every season in terms of just being a well-rounded player. But then you also have situations like against the Sharks where these guys keep going after Dumba because they think he's, taking cheap shots at these players, even though he's hitting them clean. He's hitting them hard, but he's hitting them clean. So they're trying to, shove Dumba. They're chirping at him all the way down the ice. Foligno sees it, instantly turns around, goes and drops the gloves with the guy. I absolutely love that about Foligno. And even in that Winnipeg game, when it was getting chippy, he dropped the gloves right off a face-off, did the Superman punch. He's such an entertaining player to watch. And he's probably I don't know, in terms of being a top 6 forward, he's probably not even one of the most top 6 skilled guys on the team. But his grit, his determination, he's getting more skill, don't get me wrong, but he's just, I don't know. I just think it's his work ethic and his hard work, every single second that he's in the game that really makes the difference.
Bailey, he's shooting 28%. He got 5 goals and 5 assists. That doesn't scream skill to you? I'm amazed how well he's played. He's actually a pure power forward. He's not a goon.
Yeah, exactly. We don't really have a goon on the team, but he can still step up and fight guys when it's necessary, which I think is I think that's the ideal scenario because, having a goon really kind of takes away a roster spot when you think about it.
Yes, exactly. Having a guy like Ryan Reeves or something like that, that doesn't do you much good.
Oh, come on. It takes away a roster spot, but
but it's entertaining.
Other teams don't take liberties when you're going against Ryan Reeves. The dude, I just watched him. Some guy challenged him, and it was just, you felt bad. And the guy didn't want to engage with Reeves. He kind of stayed separate, but having a guy like that makes a difference. But yeah, that kind of guy doesn't see minutes in the playoffs.
No.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's a goon, but I don't know. Hopefully what team is he even on this year?
I think it's the Rangers.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say he's not with Vegas anymore, which is good. But
the Wild could have used a guy like him or Bufflin.
Yeah, Bufflin would have been nice to have on
for the last 6 years when we just get walked over in the playoffs.
Yeah, but shoulda, coulda, woulda. Bufflin hasn't played in a few years now, I don't think. So Finally, here we got Ryan Suter's return to the XL Energy Center on Thursday here against the obviously Dallas Stars visiting. So, what are your guys' thoughts on that? I'm guessing he'll get a warm welcome. I don't think there's gonna be any ill will from the fans like there was from Nashville. But what are you thinking, Liberta?
I just want him to come out on the ice before the game and take his legendary wrist shot.
The weak wrister from the blue line.
Yes, the weak wrister from the blue line. But it's serious. I think he'll be received well. I think everybody's pretty Minnesota nice. I don't think he left on any bad terms. Like, it wasn't his choice to want out of Minnesota. It was Guerin who gave him the call. It was like, yeah, we're buying you out because this is a contractual nightmare for us. So
Yeah,
we got to get you out of here. So he didn't take it well. So I mean, for what it's worth, like, fans can think he was committed to the team, but I mean, granted, it's like it's a contract situation, but still, you could in one lens, you could think he's very committed to the team, being so pissed about it that he reportedly hung up on Guerin when he called him, being like, "Yep, we're buying you out." So I think this will be a nice ovation for Suter, like it was for Parise. I don't know if it'll be quite like it was for Parise, because like Parise's more of a probably more the hometown guy, obviously being from Minnesota, but
yeah.
I still think Suter's return will go over well.
It's going to be fine. I mean, I wouldn't blame him for reacting the way he did. I mean, he expected to play the rest of his career here, and then he gets a phone call and he's leaving. I mean,
Yeah.
that's tough. So I can see why he'd do it in the moment. He had a really nice, I think it was Players Tribune article that he wrote about how Minnesota is still his home. So,
Mhm.
I don't think there's any hard feelings between him and the state and the fans or anything like that. So I think they'll welcome him back, and it'll be a beautiful, heartfelt moment.
Yeah, I think it'll be just fine. It'll be like when they brought Parise back. They'll have the tribute video for him and everything, and I don't know. Then they'll just play hockey. Hopefully, the Wild can go and beat on the Stars because it's a divisional team. Stars have 14 points right now. They're 500, so obviously they're nothing super special. So it'd be nice to be able to get a win here before we have to go back on the road. So I guess any final thoughts on the Wild here from you guys before we take off?
I guess I would just say that this team, yeah, we just got to avoid the losing streak. I think losing games here and there, it's fine, but
Yep.
as long as we avoid losing streaks, I think we'll be just fine in this division. But it's gonna be a grinder all year. I think there's a lot of gritty teams we're gonna play with, and I think we just got to be able to just keep going like we're going and find ways to keep getting contributions from guys that aren't our stars on the team and go deep, because as deep as we can go is going to help us a lot and give us that extra edge against all these teams that maybe don't go quite as deep.
Right.
Keep expectations low, and you'll never be disappointed.
Yeah.
I mean, I expect maybe first round playoffs this year, but I think they played really exciting hockey. It's unreal to watch this team come back in the third period, which is something we aren't used to seeing. So I'm loving every minute of it. Excited to see the young guys in the AHL come up at some point, whether it's later this year or next year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a really bright future despite some cap challenges, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I am too. I agree with you. Super entertaining team, and they're really all we got in Minnesota right now because everybody else sucks. So I agree. Try to keep those expectations low because, I mean, playoffs is good enough for me at this point, honestly. So
Cup or bust.
Not yet, Roberta, not yet. But yeah, that'll do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a like as well. It will help other Minnesota Wild fans find us. Give us a follow on both Twitter and Instagram, and leave your comments below. Any concerns you have on the Wild, any of your bright spots, or just any other miscellaneous comments, what you've noticed so far throughout the season. So thanks for watching.